Hello everyone, good morning. In the series of a special audit, let me start the audit of hospital. Earlier we have discussed about the audit of cinema hall, audit of educational institution, audit of club, audit of cinema halls. Now just we are going to start audit of hospitals. Hospital is a healthcare institution providing patient treatment with specialized staff and equipment. Being non-profit organizations, hospitals prepare receipt and payment account, income and expenditure account, and balance sheet. So let me have a look on the main items of income of a hospital. The main heads are as room rent, medical care, dentistry charges, delivery room charges, anesthesia charges, laboratory charges, grant for operating needs of hospital, grant for fixed assets, types of donation, miscellaneous incomes, interest on investment if investment is there, fees from nursing training school if educational section is run by a hospital, bed charges, operation room charges, x-ray charges, pharmacy charges, and physiotherapy charges if the hospital is maintaining physiotherapy department. In the case of expenses, main items for expenses are electricity charges, water charges, pharmacy charges, salary and wages of staff and doctors, pharmacy expenses, building repair and maintenance, laundry charges, that is sanitation expenses, rent for nursing hostel accommodation in case of rented premises, telephone expenses, laboratory expenses, surgery expenses, operation tools and equipment expenses, and depreciation on the assets of the hospital. But being start a audit of a hospital, a auditor is required to get a preliminary knowledge of the hospital with the help of preliminary audit. In preliminary audit of hospital, the auditor is expected that he should obtain a list of books, documents, registers, and other records as maintained by the hospital. This assists the auditor to set the extent of the auditor or the scope of the audit of that particular hospital. He should examine the audit report of previous year and note down qualifications if any, and some important information if he gathered from the audited books of accounts of the previous year. Third point, he should examine the system of receiving grants, donations, whether received through check or otherwise. Fourth point, according to the overall objective of audit, he should examine the scope of responsibility. That is very much important in the section of preliminary audit of hospital. 5. He should note down the important clause of trust deed or charter which may affect the audit and accounts of hospitals. 6th point, he should examine the minutes of meeting of the board of director, trustees, or managing committee. He should note down the important decisions concerning the financial transactions related to fixed assets, investment, financial powers as required by him during his audit, because the information regarding the financial powers vested in a particular general manager or a signature authority will help the auditor to find out the authorization of the transactions recorded in the books of accounts of a hospital. Point 7. He should examine the internal control system regarding purchase of assets, medicines, stores, consumables, clothes, provisions, and other items. The internal control system knowledge imparts the auditor to that in which part of area or in which area he have to go with a deep checking, or in what type of area of the internal control system he can use the test checking also. Point 8, he should examine the internal control system for recording of purchases, issue of stores and all other item, and a physical verification should be conducted by the auditor regarding the assets or the store. Point 9, he should obtain the rate structure of for fees, medicine and other services, power to do concession or waiver of fees. There should be adequate system for charges and waiver. Means the charges and waiver is always be authorized by a signature authority or general manager of the hospital. He should calculate and examine the input output ratio. Now, if the auditor going to audit the income side of hospital, then he have to take important steps to verify the following items. An auditor should check the bill book, bill register and copy of bills. That what is the head of income and from which sources the income is generated. Auditor should be verified the bills are prepared properly according to visit charges of doctors, medicines, stay charges, room rent and other concerning points. Bill should be verified with the fees charges structure, that what policy laid down to charge the fees from the patients and what actually charges by the hospitals from the patients. Point 4, concession and waiver on account of fee and other charges should be verified very carefully, that actually they are properly authorized by the signature authority or not. Point 5, bill should be verified with cash receipt book, counterfolio of receipt and cash book. Point 6, verification of arrear of bills should be done. And what is the policy regarding the arrear? It should also be compliance with the audit of income from the side of bills. Point 7, unrecoverable arrears should be written off with the approval and consent of proper authority. It should be checked by the auditor very carefully that some arrear are taken as bad debts, then whether they are properly authorized or not, or whether the amount is in tradition or a big or less amount. Point 8, rental income should be properly verified. He should properly vouch property register, area of rent, advance rent and provision for the same. If some area or bad debts regarding the area, then it should be noted by the auditor and communicated to the general authority, general manager. Point 9, interest and dividend income should be verified with investment register, cash book and share warrant etc. Bank book may be also checked, as income and dividend are always received in the bank. So receiving of interest and dividend on any type of investment should be verified by the auditor with the cash book and passbook also. Point 10, documents and correspondence relating to donations and grants should be verified. The list of donors, grant section letter should be obtained to verify the same, and what are the limits, what are the extent to receive the grant or donation has to be verified with the policies of hospital management. Point 11, unutilized grant should be verified at the end of the year. In case of non-fulfillment of conditions, grant will be taken back by the authority, and it should also be taken consideration by the auditor that the grant or donation is used for the particular specific purpose for which the grant and donation has been received. There, if there is any deviation, then it should be noted by the auditor, and he may take as qualification these points in his audit opinion. Point 12, difference between revenue and capital donation should be checked and verified. In case donation is for a specific purpose, the auditor should assure that the money is used for the same purpose only, not for any other purpose. So after considering these points regarding the audit of income of hospital, an auditor can perform his audit assignment in a proper way. Now, audit of expenses of hospitals. Vouching of expenses in hospital is almost the same as in the organizations or in other organizations. However, some point should be considered by the auditor as given. An auditor should adopt the usual way to vouch purchase and other expenses of the hospitals. Means all the purchase should be verified with the help of cash book and bank book, and proper authorization should be checked by the auditor. Clear difference should be made between the capital and revenue expenses. Expenses to acquire an asset should be capitalized, and expenses to incur for the maintenance of earning capacity of the asset should be treated as revenue. Salary of staff should be vouched according to general auditing principles. General auditing means with the help of salary register, with the help of appointment letter, with the help of register maintained by the supervisor to maintain the attendance, that leave, in time, out time, and overtime if any there. It should also be verified with the total salary paid to all the employees with the policy maintained for the payment of salary and wages. Now, audit of assets and liabilities of hospitals. The auditor should consider the following point and carefully examine the assets and liabilities of the hospital. First is title documents and other records relating to land and building should be carefully examined by the auditor, that actually the building and land are in the name of hospital, or it is rented or on lease. Valuation of all the type of assets should be properly verified, that they should be shown in the balance sheet at a proper valuation. Second point, resolution of trustees managing committee should be verified for sale and purchase of fixed assets. It means all the assets and investment are purchased by the approval of trustees or managing committees. Unapproved purchase, if any there, then it should be noted and communicated to the general manager of the hospital. Point 3, depreciation should be charged on the basis of the policy of the managing committee. The auditor should refer the policy maintained by the management regarding the depreciation on the assets of the hospital. Point 4, liabilities should be verified in the usual manner. Usual manner means all the liabilities should be related to the hospital only. All the liabilities should be shown in the balance sheet at their proper valuation. No personal liabilities of any employee or managing director or any other staff of the employee should be included in the liabilities of the hospital. Point 5, an auditor should physically verify the investment like shares, debentures, bond, security certificate. He should also verify them with the investment register. Regarding the interest, regarding the dividend on investment, he also refer the register. Point 6, stock and store of medicines, clothings, consumables and other items should be physically verified at the end of the year, and it should be examined or compared with the registered maintained by the supervisor and issuing authority or purchasing authority. It should be also verified by the auditor regarding these, that proper bills should be there as documentary evidence of purchase or issue. Again, the auditor have to be very much concerned about the safeguarding of the assets. For this, he can examine the assets register with the purchase, opening balance, closing balance, any part. If sold during the year, then profit or loss attached with this transaction should be separated and account for in the books of accounts proper. So to consider these type of points, an auditor can go for the better performance of audit of a hospital. Now, audit of sole proprietorship. Audit of sole proprietorship. A sole trader is under no legal obligations to have his accounts audited. This is totally depends on the discretion of sole proprietor. He may go for the get audited his books of accounts or not. There is no compulsion from the side of law that a sole proprietor have to get audited their books of accounts. However, he may get this financial statements audited due to regulatory requirements such as inventory brokers or on a specific instructions of the bank for approval of loans. Means if a sole proprietor want to raise loan, then he may approach to the bank, and as bank required only the audited books of accounts to be accurate or reliableness, the sole proprietorship may go for the audit, being he want to raise the loans. Point C. Auditors of sole proprietary concern shall be appointed by the sole proprietor himself. Sole proprietor can determine the scope of the audit as well as the conditions under which it will be carried out. It is desirable that the contract of appointment of auditor in such a case should be in writing and should be clearly define the scope of the work which auditor is expected to carry out. If the appointment of the auditor is not in writing, the auditor should write to his client explaining the scope of his duties. During the audit, he should state the limitations, if any, regarding the audit work. In his letter, it is expected that he should state the limitations, if any, placed upon his work to obtain the client's confirmation. In case of change of auditor, it would be duty of incoming auditor to communicate with the previous auditor. Actually, as per the CA Act 1949, the ethical principles said that the incoming auditor have to be communicate with the previous auditor when the incoming auditor is going to accept the auditorship in a business. Let me start the audit of a partnership firm. First, we have to discuss about the appointment of auditors. The auditor of a firm is usually appointed by the partners either on the basis of a decision taken by them or to comply with the condition in the partnership agreement. Actually, appointment of auditor is always governed by the partnership agreement if mention is there. Otherwise, partners with the help of a meeting and decision taken by them combinedly can appoint an auditor. The remuneration of auditor is also fixed by the partner in the meeting in which they are going to take the decision regarding the appointment of auditor. Point C. The letter of appointment should clearly state the nature and scope of audit, which is to be carried out, and particulars of limitations, if any, under which he would have to function. Because when an auditor have the full knowledge regarding his area or limit or extent for the audit assignment, then he can perform better. Point D, in case of change of auditor, it would be duty of incoming auditor to communicate with the previous auditor. This is as per CA Act 1949. The auditor may particularly ensure application of accounting standards prescribed by the institute, that whether the accounting standard related to the partnership firm is followed or not. In case the firm is required to get his accounts audited under the requirement of any state, the auditor will have to qualify the report in case of non-compliance with the accounting standard. This should be the part of the opinion of an auditor. Point G, alternatively, only disclosure of non-compliance with the accounting standard would be sufficient without making it a subject matter of qualification. This is the another way to give the opinion from the side of auditor concerning to the following and non-following of accounting standard. Matters that should be considered before starting the audit of a partnership firm. First is the name and style under which the business shall be conducted. It should be very much verified by the auditor. The duration of the partnership firm, if any, that has been agreed upon. The amount of capital that shall be contributed by each partner, whether it will be fixed or could be varied from year to year. This depends on the agreement of partnership. 4. The period at the time of which the accounts of partnership firm will be closed periodically, and proportions in which the profit shall be divided among the partners or loss shall have to be contributed by them, whether the loss shall be borne by the partners or whether any of the partner will not be required to do so. It should be very much clarified by the auditor before starting the audit of a partnership firm. 5. The provisions as regard maintenance of books of accounts and the matters must be taken into account for determining the profits of the firm available for division among the partners, creation of reserve, provision for depreciation and other items. Also the period within which accounts can be prepared for correcting a manifest error. So accounting period should be very much clarified. Point 6. Borrowing capacity of the partnership, if it is not implied as in the case of non-trading firms, when it is not implied as in the case of non-trading firms. 7. The rate of which interest will be allowed on the capitals and loans provided by partners, and the rate at which it will be charged on their drawing and current account. This information have to be gathered by the auditor before starting his audit assignment. Point 8. Whether any salaries are payable to the partners or withdrawal are permitted against share of profit. If so, then what is the limit regarding this? Point 9. Duties of the partner as regard the management of business of the firm. Also the partners who shall act as managing director, who shall act as sleeping partner, etc. Point 10. Who shall operate the bank account of the firm? How will the surplus fund of the partnership be invested? Up to which extent the partnership firm can use his profit for the investment. Management policy regarding the investing the extra profit. Point 11. Limitations and restrictions that have been agreed upon, the rights and powers of partners and their implied authority to pledge the firm's credit or to render it live. So there are various points that should be considered by the auditor before starting the audit. If he do so, then he will find that his audit work is going within a proper way and proper speed and with the full objectivity. Now, advantages of a partnership firm. Disputes. Audited accounts provided a convenient and reliable means of setting accounts between the partners, and thereby the possibility of occurrence of a dispute among them is mitigated. On this consideration, it is usually provided in and accepted by the partners, shall be binding upon them unless some manifest error is brought to light within a specified period subsequent to the accounts having been signed. So, audited books of accounts will be taken as a ready reference in the future when any type of dispute is occurred, and audited books of accounts can be used as the evidence. Point 2. Dissolution. On the retirement or death of a partner, audited accounts which have been accepted by the partners constitute a reliable evidence for computing the amounts due to the retiring partner or to the representative of the deceased partner in respect of his share of capital, profit and goodwill. So to find out the exact part of goodwill, profit in partnership firm for the deceased or retired partner, the books of accounts that is audited is very much helpful. Third point, reliability. Audited statement of accounts are relied upon by the banks when advancing loans, as well as by prospective purchases of the business, as evidence of the profitability of the concern and its financial position. So books of accounts serve at every step in the business day to day. 4 point, admission. Audited statement of account can be helpful in negotiation to admit a new partner, especially when they are available for a number of past years. And at the time of admission, goodwill calculation will also be assisted by the audited books of accounts, and it provides the reliability. Point 5, control. An audit is an effective safeguard against the undue advantages being taken by working partner or partners, especially in case of those partners who are not actively associated with the working of the firm, as like it may be said as sleeping partner. So these are the benefits or advantages of audit of a partnership firm. So if there is any chance to get the books of accounts audited, then the partnership go for the auditing work. Here are some special consideration in audit of a partnership firm. First, appointment. Confirming that the letter of appointment signed by a partner duly authorized and clearly stating the nature and scope of audit contemplated by the partners, especially the limitation, if any, under which the auditor shall have to function. So regarding the appointment of auditor, an auditor have to know about all the terms and conditions. Second, partnership deed. Examination of partnership deed signed by all partners and its registration with the registrar of firm, also ascertain from the partnership deed about capital contribution, profit sharing ratio, interest on capital contribution, powers and responsibilities of the partners. So partnership deed help in various ways to the auditor while he is conducting an auditor in the partnership firm, whether it it is the matter of registration of partnership deed, capital contribution, profit sharing ratio, interest on capital, powers and duties of the partner regarding the partnership firm. Third, minutes book. Studying the minutes book, if any, maintained to record the policy decision taken by the partner, especially the minutes relating to authorization of extraordinary and capital expenditure, raising of loans, purchase of assets, extraordinary contracts enter into, and other such matters which are not of a routine nature but absolutely related to the business. So minute book provide a concrete information regarding the policy or decisions by the management. Objects: verifying that business in which the partnership is engaged is authorized by the partnership agreement or not. So objectivity of the partnership firm is always be checked by the auditor. Next, books of accounts. Examining whether books of accounts appear to be reasonable and are considered adequate in relation to nature of the business of the partnership. Next is mutual interest. Verifying generally that the interest of no partner has suffered prejudicially by an active engaged in by the partnership which it was not authorized to do under the partnership deed or by any violation of a provision in the partnership agreement. So mutual interest should be verified by the auditor. Next, point 7, tax provision. Confirming that a provision for the firm's tax payable by the partnership has been made in the accounts before arriving at the amount of profit divisible among the partners. Also, see various requirements of legislations applicable to the partnership firm like section 44AB of the Income Tax Act 1961 have been complied with. Section 44AB of the Income Tax Act 1961 is related to the compulsory audit, means whether the firm is required to get his books of accounts audited or not. Point 8, division of profit. Verification that the profit and loss have been divided among the partners in their agreed profit sharing ratio or not. It is the area of auditor to verify all these points in case of audit a partnership firm, or these are the specific considerations of the matters covered by the auditor in his audit assignment. LLP means limited liability partnership. Some specific features of an LLP is here. Let me discuss first it. LLP is an alternative corporate business form that gives the benefit of limited liability of a company and the flexibility of a partnership. A limited liability partnership, popularly known as LLP, combines the advantages of both the company and partnership into a single form of organization. LLP is governed by the Limited Liability Partnership Act 2008, which has come into force with effect from 1st April 2009. The Indian Partnership Act 1932 is not applicable to LLP. It is a separate concept from the partnership. LLP is a body, incorporate, and a legal entity separate from its partnership, having perpetual succession, can own assets in its name, sue, and be sued. Anyone can file a case against LLP, and LLP can file a case against anyone. The partners have the right to manage the business directly, unlike corporate shareholders. One partner is not responsible or liable for another partner's misconduct or negligence. Minimum of two partners and no maximum limit of the partners in a LLP. The right and duties of partners in an LLP will be governed by the agreement between partners, and the partners have the flexibility to devise the agreement as per their choice. The duties and obligations of designated partners shall be as provided in the law. At least two partners should be the designated partner who will be under an obligation to obtain the PIN, designated partner identification number, designated partner identification number. So, some rules regarding accounts and audits and returns for the LLP. Power of the registrar. Power of the registrar. Documents available for public inspection. Some defaults may be there. Accounts, returns, audit of LLPs. Let me discuss rules and regulations regarding accounts and audit and returns one by one. First is accounts. An LLP shall be under obligation to maintain annual accounts reflecting true and fair view of its state of affairs. LLPs are required to maintain books of accounts which shall contain, point 1, particulars of all sums of money received and expended by the LLP and the matters in respect of which the receipt and expenditure take place. A record of the assets and liabilities of the LLP. Third, a statement of cost of goods purchased, inventories, work in progress, finished goods, and cost of goods sold. 4 point, any other particulars which the partners may decide. So in the head of accounts, all these are the points that should be maintained by an LLP as per the books of accounts. Now, second is return. Returns means the documents have to be submitted towards the registrar. So first is a statement of accounts and solvency in prescribed form number 8 shall be filed by every LLP with the registrar every year within a period of 30 days and 30 days from the end of 6 months the financial year to which the statement of accounts and solvency relates. This contains a declaration on the state of solvency of the LLP by the designated partners and also information related to statement of assets and liabilities and a statement of income and expenditure of the particular LLP. Second, every LLP would be required to file annual return in prescribed form number 11 with ROC. ROC means Registrar of Companies within 60 days of closure of financial year, which will be available for public inspection on payment of prescribed fees to the registrar. And the third is audit of LLPs. The accounts of every LLP shall be audited in accordance with the Rule 24 of LLP, rules governing by 2009, which provide that any LLP whose turnover does not exceed in any financial year rupees 40 lakh or whose contribution does not exceed 25 lakh rupees is not required to get its audit account. However, if the partners of such limited LLP decided to get the accounts of such LLP audited, the accounts shall be audited only in accordance with such rule. Means there is no compulsion, but if the partner want to get audited their books of accounts, then they have to follow the rules. So in case of audit of LLPs, the condition or rule provided by the rules 2009 have to be followed. The next is power of the registrar. Registrar would have power to obtain such information which he may consider necessary for the purpose of carrying out the provision of the Act from any designated partner or employee of the LLP. He is authorized. He can seek any information that is required by the law. Second point, he would also have power to summon any designated partner or employee of any LLP before him for any such purpose in case the information has not been furnished to him or in case the registrar is not satisfied with the information furnished to him. So under the power of registrar, he can inform the partner or employee to furnish some specific information or required information. But if he is not satisfied with the required information furnished by the partner or employee, or if employee or partner didn't furnish any information, then he can summon with the power to summon any designated partner or employee of LLP. Fifth point regarding the document available for public inspection. The following documents information will be available for inspection by any person. The fee for such inspection of LLP is ₹50 and fee for certified copy or extract of any document under section 36 shall be ₹5 per page. What type of document will be available for public inspection? That is, first, incorporation document. Second is name of partners and changes, if any, made therein. C, statement of accounts and solvency. D, annual return. So all these are the documents that is available towards the public, and anyone from the side of public can check it, but with the prescribed fees payment. Default. A, it has been provided that in case LLP file relevant documents after their due dates, will additional fees up to 300 days. No action for prosecution will be taken against them. But in case there is a delay of 300 days or more, the LLPs will be required to pay normal filing fees, additional fees, and shall also be liable to be prosecuted. See, the Act also contains provisions for compounding of offences which are punishable with fine only. So regarding the audit of an LLP, the auditor is required to get the different features regarding the LLP and knowledge about the rules, accounts, audit and returns for the LLP. Then we talk about the appointment of auditor in case of LLP. The auditor may be appointed by the designated partner of the LLP when at any time for the first financial year, but before the end of first financial. Second point, at least 30 days prior to the end of each financial year, except first financial year. Third point, to fill the casual vacancy in the office of auditor. Fourth point, to fill the casual vacancy caused by removal of auditor. However, the partners may appoint the auditor if the designated partner have failed to appoint them. So, for a LLP, the authority to appoint an auditor is designated partner. whether first time, whether he is appointing casual vacancy in the office of auditor, whether he is appointing auditor on casual vacancy caused by the removal of auditor. But if designated partner fails to appoint an auditor for the LLP, then partners may appoint the auditors. Now, advantages, purpose, need of audit. First point is detection of errors. Auditing the accounts of LLP help in detecting error and fraud and verification of financial assets. Actually, detection and prevention of error is the secondary objective of the auditing. That is applicable here, and the prima facie objective is to verify the financial statement, whether they are explaining or providing or showing the true and fair view of the state of affairs of the LLP or no. Second point, disputes. Disputes means if any dispute is there within the partner or with another third party. In this situation, audited books of accounts help to provide a solution for the dispute. And dispute will be settled with the help of audited books of accounts, because audited books of accounts provide reliable and accurate information. Third point is reliability. Bank and financial institutions lend money to the firms only on the basis of audited books of accounts. Again, being audited books of accounts provided reliable and faithful information. Fourth point, better compliance and management. Periodical visit and suggestions by the auditor will be helpful in improving the management of the LLP. And auditor is ready to provide or capable to provide the suggestions or informations only when he go with his audit process in the particular LLP. Fifth point, reconstitution. For setting accounts between partners at the time of admission, at the time of death, at the time of retirement, at the time of insolvency, and other situations, audited books of accounts are accepted by those concerned who have dealing with the LLP. Again, basis same, because audited books of accounts provided reliable and faithful information. Now, auditor's duty regarding audit of LLP. What point should be considered by the auditor as duty when he is going to complete audit assignment with an LLP? The first is engagement letter. It may be said as appointment letter. The auditor should get definite instructions in writing as to the work to be performed. Means appointment or engagement letter should be in position of the auditor that he is appointed as an auditor in that particular LLP and he is going to conduct the audit assignment. Second, minute book. If partners maintain minute book, he shall refer it for any resolution passed regarding the accounts. So, auditor have to go with the minute book to find important decisions, important resolutions and directions regarding the LLP. Third, LLP agreement. The auditor should read the LLP agreement and note the important point. What type of important point? Like nature of business of the LLP, that in which type of business the LLP is engaged. Amount of capital contributed by each partner. If any partner contributing some assets, then it should also be in the knowledge of auditor. If there is same balance brought into the partnership by the partners or there is any difference, it is also be in the knowledge of auditor. Next is interest in respect of additional capital contributed. If a partner is contributing additional capital in the another year or in the same year, then what will be the interest rate? Maybe interest rate is there or not, it should be in the knowledge of auditor. Then duration of partnership. If partnership is set for an specific event, then what is the duration of that, if any, if any. Then drawing allowed to the partners. It will be in the knowledge of partner auditor that are partner allowed to withdraw amount from the LLP or not. Salaries, commission, etc. payable to partner, if any there. Sometimes we have seen that partner are also getting salary from LLP for work contribution. Point G, borrowing powers of the LLP. If LLP required some loan or fund from the third party or from the outside of the LLP, then is it permissible or not? Right and duties of partner. All the type of right and duties and liabilities should be confirmed in the partners meetings and maintained in the minutes book. So minutes books is very important by the auditors to go through. And agreement. Point I, method of settlement of accounts between partners of the time of admission, retirement, admission, etc. LLP agreement imparts about the terms and conditions regarding admission, death, retirement, insolvency of the LLP or the partners. So all these things have to be in the knowledge of auditor, but for this knowledge getting, the auditor should go with the LLP agreement. Any loss, any profit, in which ratio they will share, loan advanced by the partner, loan taken by the partner, both the things have to be mentioned in the agreement, and agreement should be read by the auditor to get this knowledge. So these are the points that have to be in the knowledge of auditor, and he can get the knowledge of these points with the help of LLP agreement. Next is reporting. Fourth point, the auditor should mention whether the records of the firm appear to be correct and reliable. He have to mention in his opinion whether the firms appear to be correct and reliable in sense of records. He have to mention that whether he was able to obtain all information and explanations necessary from the LLP for his audit assignment completion. If any limitations are there or whether any restrictions was imposed upon him, then he should report it. And he is liable to present a report stating the proper information or observation or opinion from the side of audit. So in case of LLP audit, the auditor have to be very much concerned about the proceedings, procedures, features of LLP. With the knowledge of specific features of an LLP, auditor can make his audit plan in very systematic way. And to go in the deep systematic way of the audit process, the auditor are required that he get the knowledge regarding the rules and regulation, maintenance of books of accounts, return file to be or to be filed towards the registrar, powers of the registrar regarding the information furnishing, documents that will be available after submitting towards the registrar to the normal public, or if LLP or designated partner make any mistake, then what will be the consequences in sense of default, terms and conditions of appointment of auditor and authority to appoint the auditor, what type of advantages may be there to the LLP after getting books of accounts audited, whether it is in the sense of detection of error, true and fair view, arising any dispute, reliability of books of accounts, better compliance and following of the management policy or reconstitution. And auditor's duty regarding the audit of LLP should be in the knowledge of audit. Then he can perform an audit of a LLP in a better and timely manner.